Here's an AMI This Week shortcut with Laura Bain. Some viewers may remember Vicky Levack, who I interviewed in 2019 as part of our special Real Stories with Laura Bain. She's a speaker, advocate, and self-published author. She's 29 years old and for the last 8 years has been living in a long-term care facility. Since the pandemic, her normally active life has been dramatically altered. Vicky, thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Laura.
First of all, can you tell me about the facility you live in, what it's like, and roughly how many people live there?
There are 190 of us living in this building. I personally have my own room, but most of the rooms here are double rooms.
Why do you live in a long-term care facility?
That's a question for the government. What they told me was that my care levels were too high. So the level of care I needed could not be provided to me in a small options or group home. So I had two options. I could either move into a place like this or live with my folks.
Right, so obviously pre-COVID, it wasn't the ideal living situation that you'd like to be in.
Oh no. No, if I had any other choice, I'd take it.
What was your life like before COVID-19?
Very, very active. I was on a lot of disability rights boards. And I'm still on those boards, but obviously those meetings have sort of dwindled because we can no longer meet in person until this too has passed. Just very active, very social. Sometimes it could be running errands, sometimes it could be meetings. I used to go to a lot of movies because that is something I can easily do by myself. You know, I would find something to do that day.
Yeah, so how has that changed since the pandemic?
We're not allowed to leave the grounds unless it's for medical purposes. I've only been out of the house 3 times since March, and all 3 times were for medical treatment. And then after medical treatment, you have to be in lockdown for 2 weeks. You're allowed out for an hour a day as long as you wear a mask. And we're allowed to have visits, but only 20 minutes long outside, 6 feet apart. A couple weeks ago, we were told we were allowed to hug for 15 seconds. So that's where we're at right now. We're basically locked in. We can go sit in the backyard, but we cannot go anywhere else on the property, which can be very frustrating. And I sort of feel like I'm in Groundhog Day in the most terrifying way possible.
What's the atmosphere been like in the facility that you live in, like amongst the other residents and amongst the staff?
Very well, staff seem to be staff are doing very well. The frontline staff and the management staff are doing extremely well. Their hands are tied because it's the government's decision, so they're almost as frustrated as we are. But again, their hands are tied. People are really starting to turn on each other. There's been a lot of crying from certain residents. Just a lot of frustration, I think. And it's all boiled over to the point where we're picking at each other. Even I myself find myself doing it. And I go, geez, this isn't the person I want to be.
What's been the most challenging thing about living in a nursing home during the pandemic?
Just feeling as though I'm trapped. Like in March when everything was shut down and everybody had to go through the same thing, it was different. Because I was like, oh, well, our freedom of movement has been curtailed, but it's been for a really good reason. And then other people got their freedom of movement back, and we didn't. So that's when I started to believe it was unfair. And I felt as though I was being, we, meaning the disabled community, were treated like children. Like, you can't make your own decisions about your health, disabled woman. So Big Daddy Government's gonna do it for you. That's what it feels like. And it's kind of insulting. I shouldn't say kind of, it is insulting.
Have you been able to continue your disability rights activism at all during COVID?
Well, yeah, I've actually become sort of I feel sort of like a spokesperson for what it's like living in a nursing home during the pandemic. So I've been doing a lot of interviews that way. I'm not doing the activism I would like to do, which would involve going out in the community and trying to educate people, in our actual community spaces.
Right. Well, Vicky, I want to thank you for being so open with me today about your situation and sharing about this topic. I know it's a little bit difficult, but I think it's really important to hear your perspective.
Well, I think it's important to hear everyone's perspective, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. I appreciate it.